Gabrielle is a certified life and positive psychology coach and the host of the Pressing Pause podcast. And she spends most of her time supporting overdoing, overthinking, overwhelmed women to feel calmer, more confident, and more in control. So that was overdoing, overthinking, overwhelmed. If you relate to any of that, let me know in the chat. Give us a little relate. I'm sure there are a few people who feel seen right now. Gabrielle's book, The 1% Wellness Experiment, is micro gains to change your life in 10 minutes a day. So these are challenges. It challenges the reader to enter into a month-long experiment using 1% of your day for 1 month to focus on you. And these micro gains and the challenges are designed to improve your mood, increase your happiness without crucially taking up your valuable time. So Gabrielle, thank you for your time and thank you for being here tonight. So lovely to see you.
Hi, Tony. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm really excited to dig into this. And we were just talking about offline about BJ Fogg and the event we did with him. And so this book, your book and your experiment is 31 different exercises. And the last exercise is actually inspired by tiny habits, isn't it? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I came to the VJ Fogg event and we were just saying what a lovely man he was. And yeah, so the last experiment is all about creating habits. And so obviously, VJ Fogg is the man when it comes to habits. So absolutely inspired by him. And I made it the last experiment because I wanted to give you the opportunity to, having tried out all the other ones, to see which ones you want to make a habit. And then here is an experiment as to how you then want to make that in a habit. And I loved, his habit sandwich of, after I do this, before I do that, this is the thing that I want to make a habit, because it's that kind of habit sandwich, habit stacking that I have found so useful myself. If there's things that I wanted to establish, and this was actually before I knew about habit stacking and habit sandwiching and BJ Fogg, but just the idea of, but if I already do these things, if I wedge the new thing in between, will that stick? Will that help it stick? Lo and behold, it does, just exactly as he describes. Yeah, so it's lovely that Tiny Habits is your book of this period. And it all, just like you say, it all ties in so lovely.
Yeah, brilliantly. And we're going to talk, aren't we, about the idea of starting small or not starting small. BJ Fogg told me off for saying that, keeping it small and not expecting it doesn't have to hurt to make a difference, basically. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Someone's just asked, I'm struggling to work out what 1% of a day is. So should we just talk about that quickly so you can talk about how you measured this?
Yes. So 1% of your 24 hours is about 15 minutes. But to really make sure that this is doable, I took off the recommended 8 hours sleep. Whether you get 8 hours sleep or not, I don't know, but I took that off. And so 1% of 16 hours is actually 9.6 minutes, but I rounded that up to 10 minutes. So everything that I talk about in the book is all the aim of spending 10 minutes on it. Sometimes you could spend 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. You don't even have to spend 10 minutes on some of those things. And other things, you can spend longer if you wanted to. They're really, there's a real kind of variety, but they are certainly absolutely doable. Doable is a word that I say a lot. Doable in 10 minutes. Yeah. And that is 1% of your waking day, is how I describe it.
Yeah, wonderful. Doable is a good word. I think that's a great word. That's that's something to aim for, because and we will talk about this because I've already spoken to you about this quite a lot, the idea of like, well, if it's not really hard, how's it going to make any difference to my life? But doable is actually where the power is, and that's how we get these things. Because I'm now reading Tiny Habits as well, and the 1% Wellness Experiment, I'm understanding more about the power of these micro gains. But just to learn a little bit more about you before we dive into the book, how do you spend the rest of your day when you're not experimenting with your well-being?
Helping other people with their well-being.
Yeah.
So I'm a coach. I'm a life and positive psychology coach. So like you said, I help overdoing, overthinking, which leads to overwhelm women. So I also create some online courses that I teach. I have a podcast all to do with that theme. I also work for my local branch of Mind. And I'm studying a master's in applied positive psychology. So essentially, it's just all well-being, Tony, in my life. Plus, I have a husband and a little dog. There's a lot of walking that goes on. I would quite happily spend 8 hours a day reading, but until somebody will pay me to just sit and read and do nothing else, then actually I have to do work as well. Yeah.
That's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, there's got to be, I mean, there's got to be a grant somewhere, surely.
Surely. And I'm sure a lot of people will relate to that. They'd love to spend most of the day reading. But we're doing this is kind of like a good way to move towards that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So my favorite question to ask everybody that comes on like that I get to interview is how is your current relationship with yourself? How would you describe it if you had to describe it in a word or two or a sentence?
The first word that pops into my head is evolving, I would say.
Great word.
Because, I mean, all of us, we're always evolving anyway, but I think that it has changed a lot from the early days. So before I do what I do now, I started my career in publishing. I was in children's and youth publishing, and I did that for 15 years. I worked in magazines on the editorial side. And then I left that and I set up my own stationery business and did that for 7 years. And so my career has evolved, but also the person I was back in my 20s and 30s when I was in publishing, I did not know words like perfectionism and people pleasing, or if I did, I didn't think they applied to me. I was very much kind of in my head thinking about what I should be doing, what did other people expect me to do, not wanting to let anybody down. Now I completely and utterly recognize it as people pleasing and perfectionism and, all that overthinking and overdoing because I wanted to make everybody happy and take care of everyone and not let anyone down and not sort of show that I didn't know how to do things. And now with all the time that's gone by, also I'm in my late 40s and just learn stuff in life. Everything that I've learned about positive psychology, everything I've learned about well-being, putting it all into practice myself, the evolution of how I come to now do this work, everything I learned from working with other women, it's absolutely helped me be what I call a recovering perfectionist and a recovering people pleaser. I don't know whether it's possible for anybody to say, that's it. I am no longer in any way, shape, or form a people pleaser
Cured.
or a perfectionist. I'm cured. Hallelujah.
I don't care.
So I think that and I'm always a bit wary of people who are just like, right, I've sorted. I've figured it out. I've got that magic key. I've sorted it all out. Which, there are a fair amount of wellness gurus who do come across like that. I think that we're always going to be evolving. Sometimes we're going forward, sometimes there's a few steps back, or you unpeel some layers and you think, you know what, I got to a place where, I don't do those things anymore, and I know how to say no about that thing, and I know how to do this, and then something will happen and you go circling back and actually, oh my God, why did I just agree to do that thing? I thought I didn't do that anymore. So we're still, we're always going to be evolving and discovering new ways of being better able to take care of ourselves and stand up for our needs and express our desires. And then there will be moments when actually that all kind of goes out the window and we forget and we have to remind ourselves. So yeah, I think evolving is the word.
I think that's a great word. I think we've before in the club we talked about the chart that says progress doesn't look like this, it looks like this. So kind of like ultimately you are going up, but it's like up, down, left, right, kind of forward, backwards. And once you kind of understand that and can lean into that, then like I like the way this is called the experiment, and you do actually specifically say in the book quite early on, make sure I don't lose that, that an experiment versus a challenge, because the idea of the experimental mindset is whatever happens, it's a win really, or whatever happens is right, because it's like you're learning as you're going. So whereas a challenge, you can kind of fail a challenge.
Yeah, and actually it's interesting because when you were giving me the lovely intro at the start, and you said, that this book challenges you to enter into a month of experiments. I actually asked my publishers if they would change the word challenge to invite, because that word challenge, I just thought, I don't want to challenge people. Challenge feels very striving, very achievement based, very kind of like, don't get them. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm much more like, I want to invite you. Would you like to try? Do you want to consider? That is much more kind of my style. So that word is interesting because it's very kind of at the heart of the whole point of the book being about experiments. It's very much to counter that feeling of this is the way that you need to do it, because, you know, an awful lot of books can be very much of the follow these 10 steps, life will be grand. You know, you just got to do it this way. And it worked for me. It worked for a bunch of other people. There's science that backs it up. Therefore, you just do it this way and life will be grand. And yes, maybe there is science that backs it up. And there is plenty of science that I reference in the book. And yes, you know, it might have worked for that person and other people. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everyone, because we've all got our own lives. We've all got our own responsibilities, our own challenges. And I think that when we are thinking that we have to do things a certain way, and if we don't do it that way, then actually it's something wrong with us, because that's why we can't do it. That's why we're not getting the results that we've been expecting or we've even been promised. Then we think that we failed. You know, we were challenged, we didn't succeed, therefore we have failed. And actually, it might just be that that way of doing it that was suggested or was given doesn't work for you. That actually doing it in that way is not going to fit in with your life. But maybe there's a different way to do it. Maybe actually, if you tweaked and tried it again, which is another thing I suggest, that maybe there's a different way that actually it could really work for you. But it's absolutely, you know, not going to work for you the prescribed way you have to do it. And also, it could be that that thing is just not for you. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Doesn't mean the person suggesting it was wrong. Doesn't mean the science is wrong. Doesn't mean you're wrong for it not working for you or you not liking it. You know, there are plenty of people in the world who have tried meditation, don't like it, don't want to do it. Fine. You know, that's not for you. There will be plenty of other things out there. There are lots and lots of ways, you know, from all the books that you read in the club, you know, there are so many ways that we can look after our mental and emotional and physical and spiritual well-being, that we can find ways that work for us. And if it doesn't work for you, but it works for somebody else, that's fine. And so having that kind of experimental approach just means that, you can't fail, because you're just trying what works for you. And it just takes that whole pressure off. And as somebody who has very much felt, well, I need to do it this way, because this is how I'm supposed to do it. And, you know, I want to be a good girl and do it the correct way. And if I don't do it the correct way, then I've messed up. And it's me that's got it wrong. Oh my God, there's so much pressure before you've even done anything. That instead, you know, and also sometimes you don't even try, because you think, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And if I can do that, I don't want to try. That was definitely something that I used to do an awful lot more. Whereas now, taking the approach of, I'll give it a go. I'll just give it a go. Let me try. I'll just try. Let me see. And I'll just see how I get on. And if I don't like it, well, maybe I can think about whether there's a different way of doing it, or I can look at why don't I like it. But, you know, if I really don't gel with it, if it doesn't work for me, I experimented. I tried. I'll move on. I'll try something else.
Yeah, totally. I know you like Gretchen Rubin also, and I listened to a podcast with her this weekend, and she's one of the, you know, a happiness expert and done all the research and stuff. And she actually said in this in the interview, oh, I just can't do gratitude journaling, can't stand it. And I thought, oh, that's refreshing, because I mean, I do it, and I enjoy it, but then like everything you read is like gratitude, 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 and she's just like, I just it wasn't for me. So she like kind of does a few other things, like she thinks about a memory of the day rather than like something she's definitely, you know, writing down the gratitude list. But I just thought it was quite freeing and interesting listening to the expert saying, well, no, that's not something I'm interested in anymore. So I tweaked it and something different. And also just to go back on the perfectionism side, because that's something there's a note on that again at the beginning of the book about, and so you call yourself like kind of recovering perfectionist. And do you think is that common for people having difficulty when they're trying to change habits?
I think so, because I think certainly for a long time I thought perfectionism was purely about you want to make everything perfect. And I wasn't somebody who you know, always strived for the absolute best quality version of everything. Sometimes I just got something done and shoved it out. And so I thought that wasn't me. But actually, perfectionism is more about not wanting to mess up, as opposed to necessarily wanting everything to be perfect. And so if you feel like, if you're not going to do it really well, if it's not going to get you the results that you expect to get or that you think you should get, then maybe you won't do it at all, because you don't want to be bad at something. You don't want it to be something that's hard, because actually being uncomfortable doesn't feel very good. And, if you've gone through a lot of life trying to avoid the discomfort of being uncomfortable, you don't want to be in that kind of learner's place where actually you get things wrong and you find things difficult and you struggle with it. And so I think that can really affect when you're setting up a new habit, because you can think, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stick to this. And if I don't know if I can stick to this, I don't know if I want to do it, because if I don't stick to it, I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to feel like a failure. And I'm going to feel like it's yet another habit that I couldn't stick to. It's another thing that I can't do. It's more proof that I've got no staying power, that I'm easily distracted, that that's something else to bash myself over the head with. Therefore, I wouldn't even try in the first place. But one thing that I talk about in the book is that if you take the attitude of let's just give it a go and see how I get on. But also, one thing that I found really freeing is that it's not about like how many times you do it in a row. It's when you don't do it, what happens next. So if you stick to something for, say it's gratitude journaling, and for 6 nights, when you go to bed, you write in your gratitude journal, and then the 7th night you forget, slips completely out of your head. And then, the 8th day, you're like, I completely forgot to do it yesterday. Oh God. Now, you could quite easily think, knew that was going to happen. I can't stick to anything. Well, what is the point? So if I got to, I've only done 6 days, for God's sake, I couldn't even make it a week. What is the point? I'm not going to bother doing it. But if you say to yourself, okay, that's annoying, I didn't mean to do it. All right, well, I'm just, I'm not going to say I start again. I'm just going to do it now because it's something I want to do. I actually quite like doing it for those 6 days, or I didn't even know whether I like it or not yet. I haven't done it enough. I need to, I want to keep experimenting because I haven't got enough data to, make a conclusion. So I'm just going to do it again. And then you're off and running again. And voila, your habit is up and running. Whereas actually, if you had, kind of stopped at that point and thought, well, because I don't have this perfect line of, tick boxes every day, then there's just no point. Then you're going to feel quite crappy about yourself. But also, you've missed out on an opportunity of doing something that actually might feel good. Maybe you already felt good or could help you to feel good in the future. And then by trying again, you're actually showing yourself, you know what, I have resilience and strength, and I'm able to pick myself up and go, all right, that was disappointing. I would love to have done it for 7 consecutive days and not have skipped a day. But you know what, human being, this is what happens, but I'm going to try again. And you kind of prove to yourself that you are somebody who can stick to things because you're having another go. Sticking to things doesn't have to mean every single day without failure. I think it can also mean I'm going to have another go. Also, if you missed that 7th day, not because you forgot, but because you just didn't want to, because you couldn't be bothered, frankly. You just, weren't asked about it. And then the next day you then have remorse and they go, oh God, I wish I'd done it. Oh, I should have done it. That shows all kinds of things. All right, some days you can't be bothered. You just don't want to do the healthy thing for you. But, the next day, try again. Or even if you don't do it for 2 days, the next day, have another go. That's you still proving to yourself that you're willing to try again. And I think that's a powerful message that we can take on for ourselves. And it helps to build that habit.
Yeah. It sounds like self-compassion, like a lot of self-compassion coming into this as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's definitely something that perfectionists can be very hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And I think it can be very hard to be kind to ourselves. And one of the early on experiments is all about talking to yourself as your best friend, being your own best friend. And this is something that I find with everybody that I have ever worked with. If ever, they're stuck as to how to be nice to themselves because you haven't done it very much, then I always say, okay, so if it was a really good friend of yours who's in your situation, going through exactly the same experience, feeling how you feel, what would you say to them? Oh, well, I would, and straight away it comes, because we know how to be caring to other people. We know how to give other people compassion and love and attention and care and support and encouragement. So then everything that they say to them, I say, okay, now what about if you flip that around and say it to yourself? Oh, and then it's like, oh, and now I know what to say to myself. And it feels weird and uncomfortable if you've not done it before. It can feel a bit kind of self-conscious and a little bit sort of embarrassing almost to say those nice things to yourself. But that's the way to be able to think of what to say to yourself, because so often we can just draw a blank, but we can say lots of lovely things. We know exactly what we would do for someone else, and then we just flip it around and say it to ourselves. And it's that's a doorway into being able to be more self-compassionate, I think.
Yeah. I think so there's 31 exercises or experiments in this book, and that's for one for every day of the month when there's 31 days. And I really think it's like, I feel like it's like a self-help buffet, like and also lots of little different entries into things. So like some people who are on the call will have read the self-compassion book with us, and feel like they're maybe kind of they're quite far along in their self-compassion journey. Other people might never have heard of it until tonight. So I think the exercises, the experiments are quite a good way just to kind of, like you say, try different things. And when you're going into it with that kind of mindset, then you've got literally nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
Before we go, so let's talk about the power of the micro gains and the marginal gains, and why it's important to get into that kind of mindset of, we don't need to starve yourself to change your eating habits. We don't need to get up at 5 a.m. every morning we don't need to become a different person, basically, to get these new habits into our life.
Yeah. So when I was picking the 1%, part of me was thinking, brilliant, 1%, who can argue with that? It's only 1% of your day, it's only 10 minutes. That is so little, surely that is going to be doable for majority of people. And the other half of me was thinking, yeah, but people are going to be like, nope, nothing can be achieved in 1%. 10 minutes is not enough. I point blank refuse to believe that I can make any kind of difference to myself in 10 minutes. It's just not enough. It needs to be at least 10% or 25%. And the thing that I love about the 1% is that it ties in beautifully to this whole thing of marginal gains that came from British cycling. And when I discovered this, and I am not a cyclist, I am not knowledgeable about cycling, but this I just absolutely loved. So there's this man called Dave Brailsford who became the performance director of British Cycling in the early 2000s. And until the early 2000s, Britain was just shocking at cycling, absolutely dreadful. We had won I think Olympic gold since like 1920. No Tour de France winners, just absolutely appalling. Dave Brailsford comes along and he starts just tweaking by 1%, and he's done lots of interviews about it. So he does these little tweaks, as opposed to something massive, like we need to completely radically overhaul the bike design. Instead, he does things like he gets a doctor in to teach everybody, all the cyclists, all the staff, everybody involved, how to wash their hands properly, just to minimize the amount of germs that could be flowing around, that could be making people feel a bit ill, feel a bit under the weather. They paint the inside of the trucks that carry all the bikes and equipment around white, so that they can more easily see any dirt, any dust that's around, so that they can, make sure that everything is clean, and therefore there's not little bits of dirt on the bikes that could be creating drag. They test out a load of mattresses and pillows with all the athletes, so that they get the exact right mattress and pillow for each athlete, and then transport them around with them. All these little things, and it's amazing the difference. So he joined in 2003. And by the 2008 Olympics, Britain is winning all these different medals. They're like, sweeping the board. It's absolutely incredible. And then the London Olympics in 2012, they win as many medals as they did at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. The Paralympic team wins 17 road and track golds, and Bradley Wiggins wins the Tour de France. And then, after that, and that's it, we're off and running. And now Britain is absolutely hugely brilliant, and, huge achievements in cycling. And it's all these little 1%.
Yeah.
And you would never think, but it's not just 1%, it's all the little accumulation of them. So, even if, yes, there's 31 experiments, one a day for a month. But even if you come out of it at the end, and even if you take longer, if you take 4 months to do it, that's absolutely fine. And if you come out of it and actually you don't like all 31 aren't things you want to do, but you like 15 of them, or you like 12 of them, and you keep up 12 of those things, that's 12 lots of little 1% differences that are absolutely going to make a difference to you. Plus, all those 1% of your time, all those 10 minutes add up. So even after a week, you spent an hour, 10 minutes on doing something to look after your well-being. But if you had said at the start of the week, right, I need to block aside an hour 10,
Yeah.
chances are you're not going to find an hour 10 because there's just too much other stuff going on in your life. It's just not going to happen. Or you just find it really hard to bring yourself to spend an hour and 10 minutes on yourself. But 10 minutes a day add up. And I can't quite do the maths, but I'm thinking maybe it's 5 hours. If you were to do 10 minutes a day for 31 days, that's 210 minutes. That's something like I should know that figure. That's something like 5 hours, isn't it?
Someone in the chat whose brain is not on the book.
But that's actually a lot of hours. It's adding up. And those, and it's adding up makes a difference. And, I said, if you don't, if you're skeptical and you think that I still don't believe that's possible, try it, give it a go.
Yeah.
Not challenge yourself, invite yourself to
give yourself permission to try.
Yeah, to just try and pretend, thinking, all right, let's see whether this 1% nonsense actually has any weight to it whatsoever. And just experiment with it. Try something for 10 minutes a day for whatever chunk of time, whether it be an entire month or whether it be a week or however long that you feel like you might notice some kind of difference, and see what happens.
Definitely. So just before we start, we do some exercises from the book. So we're going to do a couple of exercises. Guys, let me know in the chat, who feels like they can find 10 minutes a day to try these things out, even if you weren't doing one every day? Does 10 minutes sound doable? I feel like it is. Also, Gabrielle, just before we start, is it important to measure this? Is it important to measure the to measure how you feel each one's going and to track these things, or not? Would you say, if we're treating it like an experiment, is it an excuse for a new journal, basically?
Yeah, well, yes. I am all for enabling stationery purchases. Yes. New pen, new notebooks, new notepads, all of it, indeed. I think, again, because I'm so not a prescriptive person, if it feels like good to you to make a little note of how do you feel at the start of, before you start putting things into practice, compared to how you feel afterwards. If that feels like that would be really interesting for you to, collect that data, if that appeals to your brain, absolutely do it. If that is like, oh God, but if I'm gonna have to start writing it down as well, and it starts to become a turn off, get it, don't do it. I would much rather that you did the thing that is going to help you to take care of yourself, than not because you feel like, well, what I should do is, write, a few sentences beforehand about how I'm feeling and measure it, or, do some sort of, how am I feeling out of 10? And then I need to measure afterwards. If that feels like it's going to be weighty, don't do it. If that feels like a way that's going to really help you to get an idea of what's working for you, because actually otherwise you're like, it's all too wishy-washy. I don't know, how am I going to know if gratitude journaling, which is an experiment, for 7 days or 2 weeks or the entire 31-day month, if I don't, how am I going to know? How am I going to tell? Then absolutely, write down how you're feeling now, mark yourself out of 10, whatever the thing is, however you want to measure it. It might be that you find it helpful to note in what way you do it, at what time of day, and see whether that works. You might say, okay, well, I'm going to experiment with writing in my gratitude journal first thing in the morning. Like when I'm having my morning cup of tea, I'm going to write about the night before, the day before, because actually I want to have some time to reflect. I'm going to see how that works. I'm going to do that for a week, and then maybe I'll try it in the evening when I go to bed and reflect on the day and see whether that works, and see, you might want to do it that way if that's, your sort of experimental brain wants to try out different ways of doing it and really kind of measure. But if that all feels like another thing to do, and how long is that going to take? Is that going to be in part of your 10 minutes, on top of your 10 minutes? That feels like too much. Just do the things that you fancy having to go out.
Yeah. Don't turn it into a big thing, is I think, isn't it? It's like, yeah, 2 people have used the word doable so far, which is great. So
lovely.
To get that rolling has worked. And I like this, Joella. Yes, you're right. We all probably waste at least 10 minutes a day doom scrolling. So I like the switch out idea. Very good. Very good. Okay, so I think it is an excuse to get a new journal, is what I'm getting from that. Any excuse, basically.
Yep. Yep.
So 31 exercises in the book. Do you want to go? You're going to go through two, I think, now with us, aren't you, Gabrielle?
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Okay. I'll probably just mute myself and let you do that. And
okay.
then, guys, if you've got any questions in the chat, then drop them in the chat, and I'll answer them if I can in the chat. And if not, Gabrielle, if you can just keep an eye on that, that'd be great.
Sure thing.
Lovely. Thank
Okay.
you.
So I thought the first one we do, kind of appropriate this time of evening, and Tony did say that it's one of her favorites, is called End the Day with a Done list. So we all know about to-do lists, all familiar with those. It's a list of reminding you what you need to do or maybe want to do, but often it's what you need to do. They're very helpful. I'm a big list person, and it can be really satisfying to tick off our to-do list. Especially if you add things at the start that you've already done, because then you get to tick them off straight away. That's always a lovely extra thing to do. However, there are things with the to-do list that aren't that helpful, in that to-do list is never done. There's always going to be more things to add to a to-do list. And also, depending on how specifically you write your to-do list, it could be there are things on there that can't be ticked off at the end of the day or even the end of the week, because or maybe ever, because if it's something like, reply to emails, there's always going to be more emails. So how can you ever truly tick that off? Or, finished project. Well, actually, the finished project could have 7 stages, because it involves some emails, some conversations, some research. There's all kinds of different bits of it. So it might be that you have things on your to-do list that you don't even get to tick off. And then when we don't tick off our to-do list, we can feel like we haven't achieved anything, that lovely productive feeling that we've got, because tick, 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 tick makes me feel good. But actually, if you haven't got tick, 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 then you feel like you're behind, you've not done enough, you've not worked hard enough, you're not being productive enough. And to-do lists kind of keep us in that productive, doing, busy mode. So instead, there's an argument for a to-do list instead of a to-do list, which is all about celebrating what you've done, at the end of the day, writing down all the things that you did achieve, and you can be, proud of yourself, or that you can celebrate. But I think that to-do lists can be very much about work stuff and achievement and things that we deem worthy of noting as a to-do, as a celebratory thing. So I think there are a lot of things that we wouldn't put on a to-do list because we wouldn't think that they qualify. They're not good enough, important enough, hard enough, big enough to be on the to-do list. And so then we could have a look at our list and go, well, I haven't actually got much on there. So that means I didn't do much today, because it doesn't make it onto the to-do list. So the whole life done list, which is what I am suggesting the experiment, essentially is an everything you've done list from your whole life. It's not just work. It's not just things that, are considered good enough, important enough, worthy enough to go on the list. It's absolutely everything. So that could be, it could be work related. It could be, finish the first section of my report. It could be, reply to that difficult email. It could be, caught up on the phone with my colleague. But it can also be listen to the birds in the garden. Took a walk for 20 minutes. Did some stretches. Chatted to my neighbour. Changed the bedding. Tried a new recipe. Phoned my mum. It's everything. It can be absolutely anything and everything. And the thing that it might sound weird about it might sound really laborious. Like, do I have to write every single thing? But actually, by writing all those things down, you'll get a much more rounded picture of your life, because your life is not just work. It's not just one thing. There's a whole load of stuff that you're doing. And I think that by writing all those things down, you really get to recognize how you are spending your time. And so, there's a lot of, certainly, for women, there's an awful lot of life admin that we do. There's a lot of mental load that we take on that we don't necessarily recognize. And also we can get really glum and cheese off at the fact that other people in our lives might not recognize. And if we only focus on sort of making note of what we consider important, worthy things, then we can actually miss out on all the stuff that we have been doing that does count, all that kind of invisible life stuff that is essential to life. Actually, if you don't do the meal planning, if you don't buy those presents and send the birthday cards and arrange the MOT and send in that insurance thing, and you don't do all those things, we get into difficulties in life. If we don't have all those things happening as well as the work stuff, we will come undone. Things will get problematic, but we don't rank those as important as work stuff, as as kind of the big things, because we have kind of been taught that actually that's not what's contributing to our kind of capitalist patriarchal society that we have grown up in. And so by writing the things down that we have done, not in a laborious, I kind of, I walked down the hall, then I walked downstairs, and then I put on a kettle, and then I made a cup of tea. But actually the things that you have enjoyed, you've experienced, you've accomplished. So there are achievements, but also just, the kind of the punctuations in your day, it just helps us have that more rounded view. So I see that it's going, does it take longer than 10 minutes to write down the whole life done list? Well, I suppose it really depends on what you write down. So it could be that depending on your day, it could be that you write down a bajillion things because actually you got a bajillion things done. Or it could be that the feeling that you have about that day is that actually, you know what, I sat at my desk and I worked really hard all day. And maybe you don't write down the specific things that you did each day. You don't need to write down every single email, but it's more like, you know what, I sat down, tackled a piece of work, and I got it done. And actually that took up a lot of my day. But I also went for a walk. Oh, and I did have a really nice chat with my neighbor. That was actually, I'm glad I got to do that. Oh, and I did get to watch pottery throwdown. And it's kind of, it's noting the things that kind of are little punctuations in your day, things that you might have achieved, might have got done, but also just like nice moments, oh, I sat and you know what, I just allowed myself a few minutes to just breathe. Or I read a chapter of my book. I meant to do that for ages. I managed to, actually sit and read a whole chapter of my book, and I wanted to do that for ages. And I never allow myself to do that. Oh, I'm putting, now that doesn't belong on any kind of other list. That wouldn't necessarily go on after dark list. It's not on a to-do list, because to-do lists are generally about things we have to do as opposed to things we would like to do. And it might be that there are some days when actually, if you're having a really difficult day, it might be that your list says, got up, got dressed, made myself something to eat. And actually, those things we might not think would be considered worthy of a celebratory to-do list. But actually, if you're having a difficult day, let's celebrate those things. If your day is difficult and getting out of bed and getting showered is something that you're proud of yourself for, and something that actually was not easy to do, then let's celebrate that. And that would appear on the whole life done list. The other thing about it is that it can really show you kind of what is missing from your day. So, if you were kind of to write your list and then you look at it and you're thinking, I got a load of work done. I can see that I did a load of life admin. I did a lot of taking care of other people, because in there is, made packed lunches, sorted out play date, helped my child with their reading, sorted out something for my mum, all these other things for other people. And you could look and you go, where's me? Where's the fun? Where's stuff for me? Where have I rested? Where have I taken care of myself? Where is the fun? Where are all the things I want to do? They are not appearing on my list. And it might be that you go, okay, well, that was just an off day. But actually, if you write your list for several days in a row, perhaps, if you wanted to monitor and see, how do I spend my days actually? And then you look after a few days and you're like, these things are not here. Where is the fun stuff? There's not a lot of fun happening in here. And it helps you to realize that actually, maybe you're not featuring in your to-do list. Maybe taking care of you has really fallen down your priority list. And so by actually noticing what it is that you are spending your time on, you can then see, I want some more time for me. Actually, I said that I wanted to read every day. 4 days, I'm not read anything. The things that that are coming out from BJ Fogg's book, things that you want to be setting up as habits. This is the way to see, are you actually sticking to that habit? That thing that I wanted to do. I said I was going to go for a walk every day. I have not. This is not happening. This is not appearing on my list. And likewise, if there are things on your list, so you're like, yeah, said I was going to have a go at playing the guitar every day. And look, I can see it. I haven't done it every day, but maybe you wouldn't have noticed. Maybe you'd have forgotten and you'd have not noticed the fact that you did it 3 days because you get to the 5th day and you didn't do the last 2 days. So it can really just help you be more intentional about your day, intentional about what it is that you want to do, and recognize all that you do that isn't just about your achievements at work, but also is about how you show up for other people. It's also about how you're getting all that mental load, life admin, the nitty-gritty of stuff in life done. And also how you're taking care of yourself, how you're making space for rest and for play and for joy as well. So yeah, shall we give it a go? Why don't we spend 5 minutes writing and see where we get up to? And then we'll have a little share in the comments box.
Yeah.
What
I know,
people
I know I said I was going to mute myself, but I just wanted to chime in. Yeah, I think that's great. Let's spend the next 5 minutes, people jotting down, and then share any insights in the chat box. I just wanted to say, yeah, the reason I love this and I wanted to kind of do it tonight is because I'm trying to kind of get into an evening routine, which I've doing this Tiny Habits book to make me realize I don't have any evening routine. Like my morning routine is quite strong, or I know what I want to be doing on the days that I've got all the time in the world. But it's like the evening routine kind of slides. And this for me is a really nice kind of like bookend to the day. And it's a bit like it's like a life audit, and like you said, and it makes you feel kind of accomplished. So I was just kind of scribbling things down when you were just talking, and I think I've had like an okay day, but like actually when you go through the list, it's like, yeah, I've done some good stuff, and also I haven't done stuff. So like I'm doing the no booze for the year, and it's like, so not drinking goes on my whole life done list because that's something I'm trying to do. Yeah, it's like it's a habit. So it's like all of those things, I think. And like you say, it's like looking where you spend your time. It's so good, especially for those of us who don't think we like can't find the time to do things for us. It's like it helps you realize what you are spending your time doing, isn't it?
It really increases your awareness and helps you just be more conscious, because we can just go through the day at 100 miles an hour and we get to the end of it and we don't feel like we've got anything to show for it because we remember the things that we haven't done. But actually, this helps us see all the things that we were doing at 100 miles per hour, and where did we factor for ourselves into it as well.
Yeah, and I love the takeaways that you give at the end of each experiment. And the takeaway for this one is my whole life is valuable. And that's I think. And I think that's really good as well for people who, like, I don't know, we've got people who like just had a baby on the call, or people who are like not working at the moment or starting a new job, or that when you're in those transition moments when maybe you feel like things are very different, or things aren't going to the grand plan, just seeing that it's like your life is made up, like you said, of all these different things, and that's what we want, isn't it? This kind of like full and varied life.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if everyone wants to take a few minutes to start writing their whole life done list, and then I won't ask people to share what their entire list is, because that could take us a while. But like you said,
was is.
but yeah, any kind of insights would be great to see. I'm going to mute myself for a couple minutes too. Oh, there's some lovely comments coming in. It's interesting because I didn't feel like I'd done that much today, but actually it's quite a long list. Yeah. That is the way, isn't it? Whenever I share this idea with clients or anybody, it's always kind of like a, okay, don't know what I'm going to write. And then lo and behold, it starts flowing. I remember I took a photo of a lovely lone tree on a long road that already has some blossoms on it, like it had already decided it is already spring. Oh, that is lovely. Yeah. It's interesting because I've just written my list, and my list has barely any work on it whatsoever because I started this morning in Manchester. I live in South Wales. I started this morning in Manchester because I've been staying with my mum, helping her for a few days. But actually, I've done loads of things that would never have made it onto any other list because they're not really work related. It was all kind of very domestic, helpful stuff. Plus, I read on the train, which was heavenly. But it feels really good to write it down on this list because actually, it's kind of reminded me of the value of all these other things that I've done. The value of changing bedding and cleaning people's bathrooms, and actually also the value of sitting and looking out the window at the countryside and reading a book for hours. And if I didn't write this whole life done list, I think I would have just been like, oh God, I didn't get much done on Monday. I wasn't very productive because I was doing stuff, but it wasn't to do with work. But actually, this has reminded me of one, practical, all the things I have done, but also the value in them. The difference I made, some of the conversations I had, and actually there was value in those conversations. And I'm glad that I've had this opportunity to be able to sit and reflect on them. I love this experience. I've actually had a really good day. Yay. It is. Yeah, I think it can lead into a gratitude list. It might be a nice little pairing to do. Yeah. Then you need to decide, do you want to do 5 minutes on one and 5 minutes on the other, and that makes you 10 minutes, or do you want to double up 2%? Spend 20 minutes. Yeah. So now you've done that, Tony, do you feel like that's something that could be part of your evening routine? Is that your first time you've done it? Does it feel quite?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I like it a lot. I think because like I said, yeah, the morning. So this morning I wrote my kind of something I read that I heard that Hugh Jackman does. He writes a list of as though it's the end of the day. So in the morning he says, I had a great connection with my husband, and I cooked healthy food, and I ate well today, and I enjoyed my dog walk or whatever. So it's kind of almost, so you're kind of like planning the day according to what you want. And I think this is a lovely way to finish it. And also for the gratitude, because I think sometimes you think you can run out of things to be grateful for when you're like, I was doing the magic before Christmas, which is like 10 things a day. But I think when you actually look at what you've done, like you said, so your day, there wasn't much that would have made the to-do list, but there's so much to be grateful for thing. And it's just that you say like that awareness. And I think that's what we talk about quite a lot, like reminding ourselves of all the small things which add up to lots of things to be grateful for often. But then, like you said, sometimes sometimes the day won't be a great day, but you'll still have got some stuff done. So it might be I made my bed, or I made it to work or whatever it was as well. But it's just a time, isn't it, to reflect on that.
Yeah, and I think you're right when you're saying about, including things that you haven't done. You haven't had a drink.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, our list could be like, I didn't lose my rag at someone. I didn't.
No car rage, no road
Yeah,
rage.
yeah, I didn't have road rage when actually I really could have done, but I didn't. I didn't, and I didn't snap at somebody who said something inane at me. Sometimes I think, our list could have those things on it. And sometimes our list might be short and sometimes it might be really long. But yeah, I think it's, that's the thing with the gratitude list, it's the detail, isn't it? When you sort of get more detailed and specific about things, that's when you discover there's actually lots of things that you can feel appreciative about. And I think it's a bit like this as well, that actually if you just look at the big sort of picture, then it can be like, oh, well, I didn't really get very much done because you didn't do the big things. But actually, all these little things or these little 1% type things,
Yeah.
actually, yeah, they mattered. Actually, yeah, I'm glad that I did those because actually they will make a difference. Yeah, all right, changing the bedding, It's not a great big thing. It's not, rocket science. But isn't it lovely to get into a bed
Yeah,
that's
that really
got
feels good.
fresh linen? Oh, that feels lovely, doesn't it? So it matters. And a comment about this task helps with reinforcing positive cognitive bias. Absolutely, because if we just look back at the day as a whole, and instantly you can think, well, I didn't get much done because I didn't do those big things. We've gone down that negative route. We've gone in negative biases. They're telling us what we didn't do.
Mm.
And actually, there's lots of things that we did do. Yeah. And there's so much social cultural conditioning around what is useful or productive, but nice to focus on all the other things and realize they're important too. Yeah, I mean, it goes against that conditioning that tells us that we need to achieve and we need to be productive and we need to be useful and there needs to be some kind of real purpose and drive towards something. We need to be striving forwards at all times. But actually, sitting and listening to the birds and doing nothing else for 10 minutes is actually productive. It's got so much good value to it, but it would never tick that traditional list that we've been given, that it demarcates this is a good thing for you to have done. But yeah. Yes. Oh, I'm conscious of time. Shall we quickly whip onto the second one?
Yeah, let's do it.
So this one, it is fun. If I say so myself. It's choose your cheerleading squad. And essentially, this is just a really fun thing to do. This is about choosing a group of people that are completely kind of their imaginary list that you have in your head of people who, anytime that you might need encouragement or support or advice or inspiration, that you can bring them to mind. And so, because they're an imaginary list of people that you keep in your head, you don't have to be able to contact them. You don't have to be able to get them on the phone or email them or, talk to them in some way. You can have anybody in your team. So they can be people, they can be people in your family and your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, but they can also be celebrities. They can be historical figures. They can be people who lived, 500 years ago. They can be characters in, your favorite book. They can be politicians, or they can be activists, or they can be sports people, or they can be scientists, or they can be absolutely anybody. It's whoever, Oprah, dead relatives. Yeah, absolutely anybody. You can have anybody that you like on your list, because on your team rather, because these are people who, when you think of them, they help you to feel good. They help you to feel like, actually they've got my back. That's what you want them to be feeling like. You want them to be people who, when you're, having a bit of a wobble, maybe you're feeling a bit anxious about something, who is it that you would like to imagine that is standing next to you, perhaps squeezing your hand, maybe saying something to you, put an arm around your shoulder. If you're going to something and you're just like, you've got a problem and you can't figure it out and you're really stuck, who is it that you want there going, okay, let me offer some words of wisdom, or just like encouraging you, saying, you can do this, you can figure it out. I know it's really tough, but just take your time. Who is it that you want to be there doing that for you? They've got your back. They're your cheerleaders. They're your support team. So it could be that they spring to mind because you heard them say something. There's a quote. There's a like a line from the film they were in. There's a song lyric. There's something that they've said that springs to mind. Or it could be that just the way that they kind of walk through life, just their general sort of demeanor, makes you think they would be a good person to have on my side. They can be really funny people. They can be really serious people. They can be humongously, kind of achievement and intelligent, and they can just crack you up, or they're just dead silly. Absolutely anybody goes. And I'm pretty sure that if all of us wrote a list of who we want in our cheerleading squad, every single person would have a different list. There might be overlaps. There might be some people that we've all got, but there would be, everybody would have their own, because it's your own little squad. So on my list, on my squad, I have Nadia Hussein, who won the Great British Bake Off several years ago. I love her. I love her so much. she's just this amazing kind of combination of vulnerability and warmth and bravery. And I just think of her when I'm having a bit of a wobble, and I just feel like she would put her arm around me, give me a big hug, and then kind of hold my hand and then tell me some really encouraging words about what I can do going forwards. And she would really make me sort of feel confident. Um, I also have Michelle Obama on my list because I just think the woman is just she's so classy, she's so poised. She's just, she's had a lot thrown at her in her position, and she just goes through life. She has this amazing quote, which is, when they go low, we go high. And I just think, oh, yeah, I think of her and I kind of sit up a bit straighter. Sort of, but yeah, I just think she'd been amazing. Nadia and Michelle, either side of me, would be amazing. Also, my grandma, who is long gone, but we once had this experience where she and I were walking through Richmond Park in London. We were going to go have a look at White Lodge because I wanted to be a ballerina when I was about 8 years old. And in front of us was this massive group. I don't know what a group of stag and deer is called, but a huge group of them. And to go around them would have taken forever. So she held my hand and walked through the center of this massive group of stags with huge antlers. And I, of course, was terrified. But my grandma said, "Come on, off we go. Hello, Mr. Stag. Hello." She talked to Mr. Stag as we were going through to 8-year-old me. And I just thought, the woman is a hero. She's so brave. She's amazing. And she's also completely and utterly, or she was completely and utterly no nonsense. So she would be somebody who'd be like, you can do this, Gabrielle, but come on, buckle up, time to put on your big girl pants, off we go. She wouldn't take any nonsense from me. So those are just a few people that I've got on my squad. So yeah, let's take a couple minutes to think about who would you like on your squad, anybody in the entire universe. And if there's anything in particular, is it a character that they played if they're an actor? Is it a line from one of their songs that that pings into your head? It might be that these are people who you can have as many or as few as you like. As you need to be able to remember who they are so you can recall them. It might be that they are really specific to a challenge you've got at the moment. And then actually once that challenge is over, maybe you don't need them on your squad anymore and you'll swap them for somebody else. It might be BJ Fogg. Yeah, it might be that you have people who are just on your squad forever and ever and ever. I've got a friend who said Dolly Parton. Instantly, she was like, Dolly Parton's on my squad and she's never leaving. Fine. Where there's other people who will vacate their space and somebody else will come in. But yeah, we have overrun, but take a couple minutes to think about who you would like on your squad. I will also say you don't have to have anybody on there because you think you should have. Like Marie Curie would be very worthy to have on your squad, but maybe you don't want her on there. So you don't have to have her on there. I think that Emma's comment is such a good example of just a bonus kind of effect of creating this squad, because of who you have in it. When you group them together, it can just the fact that you've got that group together can kind of lift your spirits if you're having a difficult day, because the idea of having Stephen Bartlett and Elizabeth I and Stacey Solomon and your dad all together, it's like, just picture them like together, sort of sat around a table, or kind of in a little huddle. And it's just quite funny to kind of bring people together and think, would they get on? I mean, whether you get on or not actually doesn't matter, because they're never going to actually meet. But it's just, even just the idea of just picturing that group of people that are there for you can be really lightening of your mood. And, and kind of just that alone can bring you some amusement and some solace and comfort. So Adele, Ted Lasso, Abraham Hicks, Jane Goodall, Maya Angelou. Yeah, I just love the fact that there's always different people pop into people's heads. And you can use different people from your squad for different reasons. So there'll be some people who will be absolutely perfect, on one kind of difficulty you're having, or challenge, or one mood that you're experiencing. And then other members of your squad will come to play at different moments. And I think that you can, there are different ways that you can make use of your squad. So it might be that this is something that kind of evolves over time. Maybe, every few months you have a little think about your squad and you change them. Or it might be that you make them in your 10 minutes and that's that. But then it's putting them into practice. It's then thinking, okay, well, actually, now I've made this squad, I've given that time to come up with them. How do I want to remember them? Do you want to have a folder with a little screenshot pic of them all? And so you can literally go to your folder and look at all those little faces and think, right, what would Adele say to me in this moment right now? Or, do you want to like make a little collage of them and print it out and stick it on your fridge? Or, do you want to write a list on your phone so that you can pull them up on your phone anytime? And you can, it's a really kind of fun conversation to have with other people as to what other people would want who would they'd want on their squad. It's just it can be quite interesting and help kind of inspire you, give you more ideas to share it with other people as well. And I find it a really fun thing to do. And it's just a lovely, encouraging bunch of people to be able to bring to mind anytime you like.
I think it's brilliant. It does really make you can feel it. Like it feels like it's like your dream dinner party almost, isn't it? It's like you can feel like kind of like you said, like find the people who are supportive. And my friend and I sometimes text each other when we've got like a big thing going on or something we're a bit nervous about. WWMD, and that means what would Michelle do? And that's Michelle Obama, because it's like I am same as you. I feel very much like she is like somebody I would love to be like. So it's like usually when I'm about to make a poor choice, I say to myself, what would Michelle do? Well, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be this. So it's that kind of like guiding light as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like 2 years ago there was that sort of phase of the poster that was made that was like, what would Mary Berry do? What would Kate Middleton do? It was like kind of back in sort of those days. And it's kind of like a version of that, of being able to think, okay, what would Dolly Parton do in this moment? What would Stephen Bartlett do exactly?
Or what would they tell me? Or what would they tell me to do? Which is really lovely as well.
Yeah. What would they? Yeah. What would they say? How would they? Or not even like, how would they treat me in this moment?
Yeah.
Because actually, how they would treat you is probably how you want to be treating yourself. It's just, again, it's like, we were saying earlier about thinking about what would you say to your best friend?
Yeah.
Okay. How would they treat me? What would they say to me? What would they encourage me to do? That's what I need to do for myself. But it's easier sometimes to think of it that way.
Yeah, it is kind of like what you probably should be doing. Like Stephen Bartlett would probably give quite different advice than Dolly Parton, right? So it depends on how the kind of like compassion that we're looking for versus the just bloody just do it. Sometimes you need to be told that, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Guys, let's share in the chat if you've got any extra cheerleaders that you'd like to share. Otherwise, it is almost time to say goodbye. Well, it is time to say goodbye. So I've shared, hopefully you guys can see in the chat that I've shared a lovely discount code that Gabrielle's given us to her book. So there's a link to her website there, and then 20% off this awesome wellness experiment book. And I've also shared your website there, Gabrielle, so people can
Thank you.
find out more about you if I'm sure they would like to. But thank you so much for this. And the book's great. Like I said, a self-help buffet. I love it.
I love that term, self-help buffet. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy to be here. Thank you. And thank you everyone for being here as well.
Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll take on some of these well-being wellness experiments into the month, and let us know how you get on. So bye, everybody. Take care. Bye.